This week's episode of the Wildcard Podcast is brought to you
Possibly the greatest musical film ever, Pink Floyd's The Wall, despite anything that...
It's nothing but a long music video.
Yeah, and that's fine because there's still a theme to it.
It's fine as a music video, but it's
there's a thread that goes along with it. The imagery is amazing. The animation for
you have to be high to enjoy this movie.
We're running out of gas. Only half an hour left.
If you're smoking marijuana,
and I was. That's why you didn't
you wanted to come on stage. You want to bring this musical to the stage.
Yes, I think it would be ideal for the stage.
You could never mount this esoteric.
Oh, you absolutely could.
For the love of God, will you two shut up?
Come on.
Welcome to the Wildcard Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Eaton, and my co-pilots on this journey to wherever are my good friends Jeff Curtis.
Hello.
And the original gay-viator, Emilio Blairfart, a.k.a. Ron Blair.
I don't know whether to be offended. I can't, in my soul, find it to be offensive, although I should.
Also joining us today, our special guest, Ron's daughter, Mackenzie Blair.
What's up? Easily the coolest Blair at this table.
At this table.
Right now.
Not in the family.
Blair in the family, I would say.
I don't know. Caleb Blair is pretty freaking awesome.
I mean, as long as we're not talking about Ron. You know,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
I am
Everyone else
the
is
least
the coolest
cool. I'm the dad.
Yeah.
I pretend to hate puns in public, but laugh at them.
You
at
pretend
home.
to hate puns in public,
Oh,
really?
all
I
the
do.
time.
I do. Because when I hear a bad one, I go, "Oh God."
You should never spend any time around Blake.
I have.
No,
is the thing. I've spent so much time around Blake, and I go, "I hate
28-page pun.
Yes, he did.
He's good.
About Mamma Mia versus Hunchback Notre Dame.
Yes.
Are you really?
A 26 to 28 page
You want me to print it
My
out
God.
for you?
A musical.
Please, I need to know.
Of course, it
with
is.
like stage directions.
He's ridiculous. I
love him.
It's
He's
ready,
so
ready to be filmed.
It was something. As Tim Isaac's brother, I'm a little offended. He kind of insulted Tim in it. I'm just kidding.
Well,
although I will say it was like a
offends
28 page musical all about how Landon is not in Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
Landon from Phoebus from Hunchback. It was like entirely about him. So, speaking of... Ron, what's this podcast all about?
El podcast de Comodín trata de reunir amigos para diseccionar y diseminar hechos basados en recursos confiables.
No, I can't argue with that.
Was that a bunch of Mexican foods you like?
It was an actual
You went to
saying.
Google Translate.
It was yes. That's exactly. I don't know Spanish. Of course, I went to Google.
So when
Translate.
you retranslate the Spanish back to English, what does it say?
Yeah, those are usually pretty thing. I will say, by the way, not knowing he was going to be doing that, I did give him the name Emilio.
Yes.
That's true.
Having
Isn't
no
that
idea
interesting?
you were going to be using Spanish.
Let's see. What does it... the Wildcard Podcast is about bringing friends together to dissect and disseminate facts based upon reliable resources.
and that's what you would actually type in.
That's what I actually...
What?
That's the
And it
translation.
went right back to it?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's
Well,
impressive.
it's hold on. No,
Did you
I
actually
didn't,
copy
I
and
didn't
paste
do what you
it?
asked for me to do.
Okay.
No,
Because this is an important thing. All the listeners are waiting with bated breath to find out what Google Translate
Let's see.
is.
I mean,
You just
I
copy
am.
and paste.
I am.
Let's see.
Do it.
Okay, I'm trying.
Oh my
trying.
gosh, you're taking
I
forever.
know.
He's poking his phone with a finger. Just like one finger jabbing it.
You're so old.
Do you know how to do this?
No.
You just copy it and
I
then you
haven't-
put
Just
it
copy
into
and paste. Oh
put
my
it into
god.
Spanish to
Okay. Copy
English.
and
I can do this.
Copy and paste in
I can do
Spanish.
this. Okay. I'm doing it. I'm
walk-
doing it right now.
Okay.
Doing it.
And
Doing it.
I
that's
got
what,
this. I'm
that's
doing
what a
it,
couple
doing
weeks
it,
ago
doing
it
it
was
well.
about doing it well.
Okay,
couple episodes
the
back.
podcast is going to be over by the time
I've
you're
got
This
this. I'm
podcast
there.
is about the
I'm
elderly
there.
and their inability to use technology. Except
I have a lot.
The Wildcard Podcast tries to gather friends to dissect and disseminate facts based on reliable resources. So it's not so
we're
different.
gathering
It's very
friends.
close.
I like
We're
that.
gathering
We're gathering friends.
My friends.
I was
I've
just hoping
gathered
it wouldn't
you.
say we were dissecting our friends.
I know.
Right.
We're dissecting our friends.
Yeah.
Next time it'll be in
With
Ukrainian.
reliable information.
Let me tell you what this Wildcard Podcast is all about.
What's
It's
it about?
us
About us
talking about ourselves.
and eating popcorn.
And one thing we
Eating
do
popcorn, eating
on every
something.
episode, except for the first episode, is talk about our favorites.
What?
Well, our first episode was a favorite episode.
It was about fried chicken. And we just didn't have the favorite section at the beginning that we instituted in episode 2.
That's true.
So, today's favorite question is incredibly simple. What are some of your favorite beverages?
Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? I like a Coca-Cola.
Okay.
We're
How?
forgoing all
How
health
do you want
benefit.
your
We're like
Coca-Cola?
not.
Can,
we're talking any
2
kind of
liter,
thing, regardless of whether we drink it on a daily
I just
basis.
said the word beverage.
Coca-Cola out of a fountain,
Okay.
very cold with lots of ice.
I disagree. I like Coca-Cola.
Well, it's not an agree. It's my
Shut
favorite.
up. Shut your
okay.
mouth. Shut your mouth.
We don't.
My
Oh, damn.
favorite.
She doesn't know how the
My
favorites
favorite.
work.
She doesn't.
Okay, only one of you guys can pick on me.
All of us.
All of us are going to.
Honestly, only 2 of you can pick on me.
You're in the den.
Because only 2 of us are your fathers?
Because I know where one of you guys sleeps.
Right. Let me change mine to Bark's root beer out of a fountain.
Well played.
Bark's root beer
out of a fountain's really good.
Can't you have more than one favorite?
Yeah.
I have several.
This isn't going to last very long.
I was going to say, I have a lot of them.
I will say fountain drinks I'm cool with, but my favorite method of drinking is glass bottle.
Oh, no, that's what I was going to say.
I like glass bottle, but I'm such an ice fan. I like fountain stuff.
Like
when I said I disagree, I really like a Coke that's in a glass bottle that you pour over ice.
I'm with that.
I like a glass. Yeah. Not a bottle. Glass with ice, with Mountain Dew on it. I'm
such not a fan of Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I hate Mountain Dew.
Well, it has to be the full throated stuff. It can't be the Diet Dew. The Diet Dew kind of sucks.
Awful.
It can't be the sugar stuff. It's got to have that corn syrup in there so that you get this corn syrup coating as it goes
the
down.
Ones where they're like made with real sugar.
Did you know that?
Those are awful.
They're
I
awful.
hate those.
And there was one time. There's one time when I went to Kroger a number of years ago, and they had Diet caffeine-free Mountain Dew. Well, what's the fucking point?
Yeah, there's no point.
It's the caffeine of the Mountain Dew that you...
I drink it for its shitty taste.
I'll be honest, I can't. I would rather have water than a diet beverage.
Yeah, me too.
The only diet beverage I've ever been able to tolerate is Diet Cherry Pepsi. No, I hated Diet Dr.
See, I've heard that one's not bad. But
I heard the same thing. But Diet Cherry Pepsi over ice, it had to be over ice. It had to be a certain way for it even to be palatable.
See, I want the glass bottle that is very chilled. I want that glass itself is doing the chilling of the beverage. And for me, I mentioned it before here, but Cock and Bull. I've been trying to cut out sugar, so I don't drink it as often anymore, but it's a very, very spicy ginger ale.
Kenzie took some on vacation.
It calls itself a ginger beer. It's non-alcoholic.
Right. It's too much ginger for me. It's too much kick for me on that one.
I love it.
I like a good margarita, especially the ones I make.
I love a margarita.
But you got to use the top shelf tequila and the top shelf triple sec to make it, and then fresh lemons and fresh limes, and it's oh my god! But it's like 40 proof or more by the time you're done.
It's a lot. But God, they're so tasty. Do you do yours blended or on the rocks?
I do them on the rocks. Although sometimes I'll get a blended if I go out, but they're never as strong when you go out because they don't want you drinking and driving.
Sure.
So,
probably a good call.
Which is probably a good call.
Yeah, that's a good move.
But I found that if you get it blended, it actually lasts longer and it's just as refreshing because it cools your throat and stuff. So
that's true. But I'm an ice chewer, so I like to drink the tequila ice.
I like tequila ice.
Yeah. My go-to drink in bars for a long time was Long Island iced tea.
Oh, those are tasty if they're done right. If they're done wrong, they're not good.
Well, that's true with any drink, though.
I guess that is.
And then, there's my American Honey, the honey bourbon.
That's one of the only bourbons I can drink.
And that rivulet stuff, that nut flavored...
I kind of know what you're talking about.
I forget the...
Did I drink some of it?
I gave it to you that once. You really liked it. I forget which nut it's made.
It's not walnut. It wasn't amaretto.
It's D's nuts.
It was D's nuts. Of course it was.
Maybe
walnut or almond pecan.
No, it wasn't almond. It was
almond.
It was walnut. It was walnut liqueur. It's a walnut liqueur, and it
was very good.
I don't really drink alcohol.
I don't either.
Not really.
There's a new restaurant that opened up in Bardstown. Cork and Barrel, Cork and Cask, and I don't know.
Cork and Barrel, I think.
Cork and Cask and Barrel.
The Cork and Cask.
Cork and Casket.
Pork and
Barrel.
Pork and Piglet.
Barrel and Cork and Casket.
I got a Bardstown Mule there, and Mule is just a beverage.
I saw a mule in Bardstown once. And
did you sell it?
Rode it around the block. Then brought it back to its owner.
Sorry, Blairs. This entire podcast is now about that time.
Jeff stole a mule.
A mule is typically like bourbon and ginger beer. And so this one had a ginger beer and bourbon in it, and it had a lot of lime, and it was actually pretty good. It's one of the few alcoholic beverages I've ever purchased somewhere that I almost finished.
That's interesting, though.
Because I don't like alcohol enough. But
is it a matter of taste that you don't drink the alcohol?
Yeah,
because that's Emily Kohler's problem.
Every time I drink
it,
every time I drink it, I feel like I'm cleaning windows. That's what it tastes like to me. It tastes like I should be cleaning a window with this.
I don't drink.
I'm not 21. I'll have a little bit of wine occasionally, but again, I usually don't finish a glass because I'd rather have water or soft drinks. And again, I'm trying to cut those out. So usually I have in my fridge at home. I usually have have you ever had naked juice before?
No,
I've heard of it. I don't know that I have.
It's a lot of fruits in almost like a smoothie. It's a bunch of fruit juices put together, or from fruit. I like those. So I usually have orange mango or something like that in my apartment, and then Gatorade.
Have you ever had plum wine?
No.
I've never heard of it. I didn't know.
We had plum wine. We went out to that Thai restaurant.
Yeah.
To be Thai.
To be Thai.
To be Thai. Yeah.
To be Thai.
Is it tart?
No, it's sweet. It's sweet wine. It was delicious.
That's surprising because plums are usually pretty tart, aren't
My
they?
mom and stepfather try a lot of different wines. They go to different wineries. That's how they plan their vacation is like winery to winery.
Winery.
And they'll do like, they've had chocolate wines before.
Ooh,
interesting.
And they've also had Cajun wine that has spice to it. I'm like, that one I would try.
Yeah,
I
would try that.
I
would try any of those wines just to see, just out of curiosity.
Those kinds of wines freak me out because I feel like they taste too good. Like I feel like when I imagine how they taste, they'll taste like too good.
And then you'll become an alcoholic.
Well,
and then I'll like want to stick a straw in it. Like
that's what worries me about alcohol too.
Right,
when I was young, I never drank for the taste. It was drinking to get drunk. Yeah. When you're a young person, then when you get to a certain age, you drink because it tastes good, and you have one drink maybe just to relax you a little bit. I love it when you come upon those drinks where you go, I could have a problem if I kept drinking this because it's so good.
What is that for you?
Dreamsicle. It tastes just like Dreamsicle.
I've never
had
a
couple of vodka in it.
I should never have that.
No,
oh my God,
horrifying.
it's amazing.
For me, it was apple pie moonshine.
That's so good. It's like apple cider. It's delicious.
Oh,
yeah.
For me, it wasn't even like, it was like baked apples. It was like,
it's so good.
I like a stewed apple, baked apple as a side dish sometimes, and it felt like it was warm and it was that. And I'm like,
no,
I need to stop.
those are
that's
so
my
good.
problem.
Long Island iced tea for me.
I
get that, and you
Or
didn't have to take
sangria.
much.
Oh, I love sangria.
I've never had sangria.
Oh, good sangria.
I've seen that before.
The first time I had sangria was at Pizzeria Uno when I was in college in Boston.
Yeah.
And it was so good. I was 18, 19. I was old enough to drink sangria.
Right.
And it's like, I was afraid that I liked it so much that next time I went, I'd want to drink a whole pitcher myself.
I love that fear. That's a good fear.
I just like things that taste good. And so I fear that when I do get older and I like start tasting, I'm just gonna really like some of the alcohol I try.
I've been trying to cut back on sweet tea as well because that's one that in college, my buddy Jay and I, the way we made sweet tea is we'd brew it in like a mason jar with tea bags and put it in the microwave for a while, and we would add sugar. And usually the sugar is by volume, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We measured sugar by time. How long the sugar was on top of it.
I've done that.
It was 11 seconds.
In morning.
Oh my gosh, 11
seconds.
Yeah,
God,
it
dang.
was, and it was
no.
And like we would go through a pitcher a day, just the two of us. And it was bad. Well, I used to also drink a lot of energy drinks in college. And we would collect them. I'd get different bottles and flavors, and we had 125 different cans and bottles, all different varieties, no duplicates.
Yeah.
That we found on road trips and things, and then it got to the point where like I would drink an energy drink and feel nothing. Oh. So I stopped, and I haven't had an energy drink.
You
since
reached your
college.
limit. Is what it was.
Actually, I don't really drink sugar at all. I mean, unless it's in sweet tea.
added sugar.
Yeah, like unless it's in sweet tea or maybe in my coffee every once in a while.
Yeah.
That's what I do. The other day, I was with my friends and I had a Kool-Aid for the first time in years. And I took a drink of the Kool-Aid and like gagged a little bit.
Did you really?
And then I looked.
I love it.
Hold on. And then I looked at my friend Hannah. I looked at my friend Hannah and I was like, maybe if I poured this over ice, it'll like
water it down.
It'll like water it down. And she looked at me and she was like, "You're so old now."
Mackenzie,
it's a lot of sugar.
Mackenzie recently reminded me of how much I love Country Time Lemonade.
Oh,
I
do
love
love
Country Time Lemonade.
Sitting on the porch.
Sitting on the porch down. Lord, it is hot in the South.
Oh, Lord, it's so hot.
Did your mother ever
used
to make? My mother used to make Jell-O. But when I was sick, she'd make it, and then we would drink it while it was warm, as opposed to letting it cool.
No, we never did that.
It's really good.
She used to make sassafras tea, which tasted a lot like root beer. We had sassafras roots growing near our house. Yeah,
sassafras.
And so she would. It was like uncarbonated root beer. It was very tasty. Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. I like tea a lot too. I like sweet tea a lot.
I don't drink. I can do unsweet tea as well.
I cannot do unsweet tea.
I can totally do unsweet tea. I have no problem with it.
I can't do unsweet tea, but I don't like my tea to have too much. Like when I go to McDonald's or something, I have to get like half sweet, half unsweet.
Almost everywhere is too sweet.
That's not a problem I have,
otherwise.
which is why I'm trying to cut it out because again, like we talked about, I like it too much.
Yeah.
I'm seriously considering right now. This is not a joke. Whether I would rather drink an entire cup of sweet tea or get kicked in the nuts.
Wow.
I mean, I'd rather have water than unsweetened tea. I really hate it.
No, that's fair.
Maybe it's a tasty development.
But I also don't drink, like, I know Emily Kohler likes to make her teas.
Yeah.
I don't care for those.
Oh, I love her
They're
teas.
also bitter to me. Everything tastes bitter.
I get that.
I like I don't know. She has the teas that she brings. They have a certain taste that I can appreciate. But regular, like if you were to take Lipton and then just brew it and then just drink it, it just tastes like bitter water. Yeah. And I don't understand why anybody would choose to drink bitter water.
Why would you?
So that's what coffee is.
Lipton. I wouldn't.
It is.
I wouldn't drink Lipton.
We like Louisiana. We do Louisiana tea bags at home.
We have Lipton as a backup.
If you gave me orange juice every day for the rest of my life, I'd be happy as a clam.
Well, you know how Joe made
I love.
Well, that's great for you, Dad. I'm sorry, I'm allergic to orange juice.
I think you could make that happen. I think you could actually just buy orange juice.
You probably could. We probably could just buy orange juice every day.
But you can't,
I don't have a problem with that.
because I can't drink orange juice.
It's not so much an allergy, it's a skin sensitivity.
What are your thoughts on milk?
I love milk.
I love milk in things. I don't want to
No.
drink it.
I like it. I can drink it if I have cookies. It has to be cake or something sweet if I'm drinking milk. I can't pull it out of the fridge and just drink it.
It only belongs to my milkshake. I don't want it anywhere else.
I once went to the doctor and she asked me how much milk I drank, and I told her, and I can't remember what it was at the time. I've had to cut back since. And she looked at me in surprise and said, you drink twice the amount as a pregnant woman should.
There was a time she and Caleb were going like through a gallon per day.
I mean, we still do go through.
Yeah, oh yes.
Like, okay, honestly, too.
She and Caleb alone, not the rest of the family, not cooking or anything.
People shouldn't be able to like chug milk.
No, they can't. If you drink a gallon of milk, you will throw
digest
up.
as a solid.
Well, yeah. But like, if we have like a full glass of milk, that challenge
in college, people make money off of it.
If we have like a full glass of milk, one of us can finish it in like a big, like just gulp. Like we can just chug it right now.
I'll only buy almond milk now because I like the flavor of almond milk.
That's fair. I like almond milk.
It's milder. It's a little thinner, and I'll use it on cereal. But it'll take me. It'll go bad before I finish it.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't like milk enough.
What about chocolate milk?
It would take us months to go through a gallon.
I only use it on cereal, and I just don't eat cereal that often.
No, I also, when I would like have sleepovers with my friends and stuff, and this is still true. When I spend the night at my friend V's house, they specifically like, V and her mom will like go out, and they will get a gallon of milk. Because they know I'm sleeping over. Like, they know that I am staying the night and that I will eat cereal and drink milk, like glasses of milk while I'm there.
We are a cereal-heavy family. We do go through a lot of milk that way.
Cereal for dinner, like that's a thing in our house.
And I'm sometimes fine with it. I eat the more healthy cereals.
Like I'll do a late snack. There's a Kellogg's one I like a lot. It's got like a lot of bran flakes in it. It also has like bananas in it.
That sounds lovely.
And it's got like a lot of different like
Now I can't say my sugar thing still holds up with cereal because I had like a bite of Captain Crunch maybe 2 weeks ago and I couldn't do it.
It's too sweet.
Yeah. It's too much. It's so sweet.
Even as a kid I was the one who liked not Golden Graham. I do like Golden Grahams, but like Raisin Bran.
Yeah,
I love Raisin Bran.
Frosted Mini Wheats.
I love Grape Nuts. I still like Grape Nuts as an adult.
I make fun of Dad all the time for eating old people cereal, but as soon as he buys it,
ever since I was young, I was eating Life cereal or I'm not a huge Cheerios fan, but Frosted Mini Wheats. I love those.
Frosted Mini Wheats are great.
Yeah, Grape Nuts. I do enjoy those. Special K with berries.
Dear Deckheads, we would love to hear your thoughts on drinks, whether it be teas or soft drinks or alcoholic beverages.
Juices.
If you are of the age, juices. I think I'm the only teacher on the planet who doesn't drink coffee religiously, but just don't do. I don't like bitter.
2 days a cup at work.
If this hasn't been clear, I don't like bitter things.
2 days a cup at work? You mean 2 cups a day?
2 cups a day, yeah.
2 days a cup
at work. One cup will last him 2 days.
Absolutely.
That's kind of Aaron Taylor, though. He just leaves cups lying around the pack. I think he's got
really
6 in rotation.
He drinks a lot more coffee than I do, by far.
Yeah. The pack in general just is a coffee. I think it's like a small country's worth of coffee utilization.
Yeah,
but when I'm at the pack, I will drink the shit out of the coffee.
Oh, me too.
Somebody's already making it. It's there. I will drink coffee at the pack all the time.
No, if there's always coffee made at the pack, and if I'm there and coffee is made, I will sit down and like have some coffee.
The only reason I didn't do the same thing at HCP is because we only had decaf.
Oh,
and I'll be damned. That's not necessary.
I'll go through more coffee and water while taking a pack show than I will ever in my entire life.
So we'd love to hear your thoughts on drinks, and we are going to move into
a discussion.
A Blair-isode.
A Blair-isode. It's not a Ron-isode. It's a Blair-isode.
He brought backup.
He did. Yeah. And I just want to make note.
You want to apologize ahead of time?
It's totally not true what you're about to say.
No, I want to make a note. I have a 6. It was 7 pages, but then I edited it down. Report of research, and I brought the book that we will be covering today with me, which is the most research that's ever been done
by a Blair.
By any Blair for this ever. Podcast.
Well, that's not true. The research you did for my Ron-isode
was
true. Far more than 6 pages.
The actual episode that was just about Ron.
Yes.
I can't say that was because he never stopped talking about
To defend Ron, he did quite a bit of research for the Schoolhouse Rock episode.
That's true. He did.
I did a lot of research for that, and
I don't know how many pages it was, but it was. I think it was more than 6. It was.
It was. Close, yeah. The ultimate challenges take a hell of a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
They take a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And Jared, I've not seen an ultimate challenge out of you.
What?
And so if you don't do an ultimate challenge,
one, and therefore you're supposed to do the next one.
All right.
I didn't even know that I won it. I am
remember. rescinding Jared championship, and I shall be considering another ultimate challenge because I love them so much. I
blocked it out of my memory bank.
Okay. I dig the ultimate challenges.
Well, it's because you're his daughter.
No,
so
that's true. A lot of my info is spread down to her.
I mean, I can't answer every question.
Jeff and I are just Ron, we don't know.
Well, let me tell you guys what brought forth this topic
that we haven't got to.
Speaking of things you don't know.
She read.
What do you mean we don't know? Ron told us what this is going to be.
That's true.
Ago.
They don't know.
You read the book. See, that's
they know nothing about this stuff. She had read the book. She had completed it in the parking lot at Universal Studios one day. And so as soon as she finishes it, she and I are on the moving walkways that are spread out through the entirety of City Walk, and we're just discussing this topic that we're about to go over. And I said, let's do a podcast on this because it's such a fascinating story to me, this book that it's based on.
I was on my way into Universal, and I was so in awe by the end of this book that I could talk, but I couldn't. What are you doing?
No, keep going.
He does this.
He's doing what he does.
Oh gosh, man. But no, I just couldn't. I didn't know what to say.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'll take it down a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
No, go ahead and talk,
Wait,
big
are
mouth.
you gonna play the beginning?
I'm just playing the score.
Oh, okay.
You should probably at some point in time let the listeners know what we're talking about.
So, what is your favorite haunted house book ever?
The Haunting?
Whoa!
Of Hill House. The Haunting of Hill House.
Wow.
That's what we're talking about today.
One about a haunted house.
Yeah, have you? Man, that is so loud.
It really is.
Right next
I'm looking at the peaks over there.
It's the intensity of the music. That's all it is.
It's the volume of the music.
It's the volume.
I don't think that's it. I did turn it off.
It is to the mic.
I did turn it off. It is a great score by Guy Humphrey Searle.
Yeah. Okay. Can you please?
What?
This is your podcast. I'm just on as a guest and doing all of the work. So
why don't you get to fucking work so that they're not bored by this podcast?
Oh
Jesus
my
Christ, do
God.
your job.
Shut your mouth.
Okay, so The Haunting of Hill House is a book written by Shirley Jackson in the year 1957? 59. It was made into a film shortly after that in 1963, starring Russ Tamblyn, Claire Bloom, Julie Harris, and another guy.
Good job.
There are 4 main characters throughout the whole story. They remade the film again. Jan de Bont did in 1999.
Trash.
Piece of garbage shit film. Had a good cast. It was Owen Wilson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Lily Taylor, and Liam Neeson as the 4 main characters. Good cast. We'll get to the differences between these casts later on in the podcast.
Or we won't, but we probably will. We should.
What it came down to, though...
You're taking forever right now, so
is it,
I don't know.
It's my fucking podcast, all right? So
I feel like they could do the whole thing themselves.
They
don't need us to interject
That's what it's like at home.
This is exactly what I was worried about.
Did you lose sleep over this?
Can you continue talking about the haunting?
Just shut the fuck up and let me. The remake, they had
been putting the explicit tag on these. I might have to.
You probably will. They
warn Wendy.
Yeah. right. For her sensitive ears.
Putting the explicit tag on them.
The film was more a special effects extravaganza because they had the budget and the money, and so of course the story took a back seat to the spectacle of the film.
Well, it always
and
does.
made a crap garbage film.
In general, I would just say, and this is not to poo-poo on your topic.
Don't poo-poo on me.
No, I'm not poo-pooing. Let the man speak.
I'm not poo-pooing on The Haunting of Hill House. As much as, in general, I would say the haunted house genre of movie does not usually appeal to me.
Yeah, I understand.
A lot of times it's jump scares and things like that, which is why I found The Conjuring so fantastic.
Well, this is hear us out on this.
I'm not. Again, I have not seen or read the original.
Let's get into
we
what
cannot.
It's about.
We really can't recommend this
I've
novel
seen the
or
House
the original film.
Let's get into
exploitation, which is great. It's fun.
Trash.
Yeah.
This is I can say it's. I don't like things jumping out at me. I'm not a fan of like blood and gore and guts, really.
Right.
They can be used well.
And the movie in '63 though
as long as it doesn't.
They can.
The quality of the movie doesn't.
But
I
can
and no
say
jump scares really in this.
What
There's
I
one
love,
jump scare.
What I love about The Haunting of Hill House, especially the movie, since we're kind of discussing that right now, I love the fact that one, you don't actually ever see a ghost.
No.
Not a single time. The house itself will like warp, and then you'll hear banging and stuff like that. But you're not positive what is scaring these people.
Right.
You're not sure what's there. It could be ghosts. It could be the house itself. It could be all in their mind.
So it feels like The Shining a little bit.
A little bit. There's a great deal of ambiguity that goes into the story.
Same thing in the book. It's fascinating. So I'm going to I have it in sections too, because again, I am prepared.
Because she's the functional Blair.
I am the functional Blair.
Well, read the introduction. The book actually has one of the finest literary introductions.
I'll read it from
ever.
the book.
I think it compares with some of Dickens' openings.
Okay, so
Mackenzie.
Yeah, I mean, this is good stuff. Shirley Jackson was an incredibly talented writer.
The first paragraph is probably my second favorite part of this book.
Yeah,
and it's the first paragraph.
Yeah.
All right. No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed by some to dream. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. It had stood for 80 years and might stand for 80 more. Within, walls continued upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm, and doors were sensibly shut. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there, walked alone. That is the first paragraph.
I love it. It's stunning to me.
That first sentence was so stupid.
What?
So stupid.
What?
That's fair.
Nothing can handle reality.
Nothing can handle it.
What?
That's fair.
No, it didn't say it couldn't handle it. It said no live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality.
Which, when you read the book, that's fair.
I'm sure she's making a point with it. It just doesn't float for me.
That's fair. I
just
get
stop
that.
poo-pooing, Jared.
Yeah,
stop poo-pooing all the time.
Poo-pooing on the book.
I'm a skeptic.
That's fair. I get that.
I don't poo-poo vaccines.
All right. So,
true.
This is what it's about. So, the Hill House is an 80-year-old mansion in a location that is never specified, but it's in between many hills, and I'll get to that later.
I'm assuming New England. It's
I was going to say
England
that's what
area.
that's always the
sounds
perception
like.
I have.
It really. I was reading it earlier, and I was trying to find a setting for it.
I'm thinking Massachusetts or Vermont, somewhere
Something
in those
like that.
areas.
Nothing's in Vermont. Don't be ridiculous.
Well,
Yes.
that's true.
It's probably
Yeah.
in Amityville.
But,
Most likely in Amityville. It's on Ocean Avenue.
I would say Connecticut.
Yeah,
My guess.
that's where I would guess as well.
Dr.
Knowing nothing
John
about this at all.
Montague. Dr. John Montague, an anthropologist and psychologist with a great interest in the supernatural, rents Hill House for a summer and invites several people based on their experiences with the paranormal to join him. Of these people, only two accept. Eleanor Vance and a woman named Theodora. She does not have a last name.
For a reason.
In LA?
Yes. They travel to the house where they will live in isolation with Dr. Montague and the young heir of the house, Luke.
What could go wrong?
Well, I was like,
much-
is there going to be another guy here? Because it sounds like it's just a sex vacation.
No.
Yeah, can I find some women who
Because
are...
what Montague's whole goal
Montague was
was.
like, hey, you can go with... No, the heir of the house,
Luke Sanderson.
Luke Sanderson, his aunt, he's like a troublemaker, and his aunt is like, somebody has to stay with Dr. Montague at this house. I'm going to send Luke because he needs somewhere to be for the next...
Luke is a charming rogue.
That was Owen.
Well,
and Liam Neeson is Montague.
Yes.
that you're using the remix, though, I'm like, oh.
They're the only names I can remember.
Like, to me, these characters are defined by the 63 film and the novel. And so when you say, so it's Luke Wilson or Owen Wilson as Luke, I'm like, no, it's nothing like Luke.
The only one I will accept is Catherine Zeta-Jones being remembered as Theo.
She nailed it. She nailed the part.
She was really good at playing Theo.
Yeah.
All right, so continued. The 4 overnight visitors begin to form friendships as Dr. Montague explains the building's history, which encompasses suicide and other violent deaths. I have a whole section on the history of Hill House. Okay. Because a good, I don't know, whole chapter is dedicated to telling you the history of Hill House.
And it's a deep, rich history. It's a tragic history.
All 4 of the inhabitants begin to experience strange events while in the house, including unseen noises and ghosts roaming in the halls at night, strange writings on the walls, and other unexplained events. Eleanor tends to experience phenomena to which the others are oblivious, At the same time, Eleanor may be losing touch with reality, and the narrative implies that at least some of what Eleanor witnesses may be products of her imagination.
Again, ambiguity is the word.
There's a lot more stuff from the website that I took this from that I'm not going to read. And basically, to sum everything up, over time, Eleanor finds herself finding a home at Hill House.
She feels welcomed there?
She feels welcomed there. And the house kind of welcomes her. Mm-hmm. And by the end of it, she's so incredibly possessed by this house that when she is told to leave, I'm going to spoil the book because we need to talk about this.
Yeah, we spoil endings here all the time.
They put her in a car, and even at the end, she's like, I don't want to go. This is my home. And they're like, no, you definitely need to leave since you think that way.
And she finds
gets
herself
in her car.
Not in control of the car.
And that's a movie thing. And in the book, it's described that she gets in the car, and then the car loses control, and she goes into a tree. She's presumed dead. It never says Eleanor died, but
if they let her stay, she'd still be alive.
I doubt it. Eleanor Lance is one of the Vance. She is one of the greatest literary characters ever. She really spent the majority of her young life. She's maybe almost 30.
I have a thing on characters right here, Dad.
Well, let's get to it and explain the thing about Eleanor.
Yeah, no, okay.
Which is fascinating.
The thing about Eleanor.
The thing
about
which is my book's name.
The thing about Eleanor. Okay, so
and she's the main protagonist of the story.
Yeah, she's the main protagonist.
Is she the narrator?
Okay, Dad and I were arguing about this earlier.
I mean, how's it told? Is it first person, third person?
It's third person omniscient.
Okay.
So, I think I looked at it earlier. The first 2 sections of the first chapter are just, I forgot. They're just third person, not focusing on Eleanor.
Right, this is how things are. This is what Montague did. This is about the house.
It says, this is Dr. Montague, this is Eleanor, this is Theo, this is Luke. This is who they are. And then after that first section, it's totally through Eleanor's eyes. Like everything
not told by Eleanor, but through her eyes.
Through her eyes. It's her perspective. And then the last paragraph of the book, after she runs the car into the tree, is obviously not told from her perspective. That's like the little conclusion. It wraps up. Like everybody goes home. This is how they live the rest of their days. This is what happens.
Right.
So, Eleanor, her story is she was brought to Hill House by Montague because when she was young, she had an experience where I think
stones
it was after
rained down upon her house.
Yeah, it was like after her dad died or something.
Poltergeist activity is what they had called it at the time.
Yeah.
And so they felt that she had
she thought her sister was responsible for it. Her sister told everybody that Eleanor was responsible for it. Her mother was freaking out on both of them. Once they left the house, the stones stopped raining, and the entire town thought that, everybody was crazy.
And mind you, the book predates a lot of the new age kind of things that we take for granted now, like telekinesis or telepathy or
stuff like that.
Tropes.
It predates Carrie by almost 20 years.
But that's Eleanor. That's why she had that experience when she was young, and Dr. Montague saw it, and that's why she ended up on the list.
Right.
Theo, who is the only other person with a paranormal experience, she's
psychic.
She's psychic.
Totally psychic.
Yeah. She went in and took one of those tests, and it was like she read cards that were facing away from her, and she got every single one of them right, which is fair because her, I guess, psychic abilities do kind of pop up in the book.
Well, Luke is a card shark.
Yeah.
He's a rogue, charming rogue, good at cards, but Theo is a psychic. Like, the book portrays her as probably a for real psychic, if there is such a thing.
There's one moment where you're pretty...
Oh, she's the one who had that, you could call her up if you had...
Yeah, you can call her up. Yeah, it was psychic
Theo. Yeah, Miss Theo, that was her.
That's it. That's right there.
Does she play cards with Luke in the book?
Yeah.
No, she doesn't.
Does she not in the book?
No,
she
not
does
in the
movie.
book. Her and Eleanor, the dynamics of this are the Doctor and Luke play chess every night, and then Eleanor and Theo cuddle by a fire.
How long do they stay in this house?
I think it's like a month. A month or so.
Yeah, it's like 3-4 weeks. It seems like forever because Eleanor goes through so many different emotions while she's at the house. It's the one
part of Eleanor's life where she has been allowed to be free. Well, get to the character.
I was going to say, back to the character
leading up to the story.
So, Eleanor spent several years taking care of her mother.
Her sick mother, who would bang on the wall in the middle of the night with a cane.
Yeah, and in her history, it's mentioned that the mother, was not a very nice woman. Mm-hmm. Eleanor quotes her a couple times, and it's a lot of, she calls Theo wicked at one point, and says
Eleanor
that
calls her mom doesn't know Eleanor at all.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. She's using her
mom doesn't know Theo at all.
A quote from her mother to describe Theo at one point and calls her dirty and wicked and stuff like that. And so...
She's really... I picture her being a lot like what Norman Bates perceived his mom to be. This domineering, controlling, harsh woman, judgmental woman.
So her mother wasn't very kind, and then after her mother died, which takes... Her mother's death is a couple months before she's sent to Hill House.
But very important to the story is that her mother was banging on the wall, and Eleanor had decided that night that she was done.
Well, no.
Well, that's what it boils down to, is that Eleanor was done taking care of her mom.
That's not entirely true. She
feels guilt over this.
I've read the books recently, and he's watched the movie recently, and those are very different things.
Yeah, it's my interpretation.
Yeah, no,
it can't be wrong.
Yeah, of course not. No, there are moments though where Eleanor's like, maybe I didn't hear my mother, or maybe I did hear my mother and I just ignored her. She's not sure, and she's feeling a lot of guilt.
She knows
over whether or not she did kill her mother. So
she killed her mom.
Okay, whatever. Anyway,
the old lady had it coming.
I mean,
hold on. When you say
have.
she killed her mom,
that's what
through neglect.
Okay, that's
through
different.
the neglect of not.
That's what
answering the call when her mom.
I understand why that would cause her guilt, but as terrible as a woman as her mother is, her mother killed herself.
Well, the thing is, her mother wasn't going to get any better.
Right.
Eleanor eventually saw this, I think, as it's futile to keep her alive.
Right, but what I'm
not
saying
enriching
is, if
her
someone
life
was trying
at all.
to guilt me into doing that, I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
If this is how you're, and I would talk to her. If this is how you're gonna treat me, I will do nothing for
right.
you.
Yeah.
So it's the mother who instigated this, even though Eleanor may feel the guilt.
Right.
To say Eleanor killed her mother, I don't think that's fair.
No, I was like through Eleanor's thought process.
You really do feel for Eleanor. She goes through a lot of shit.
But after her mother dies, she has no home. So she goes and she lives with her sister, who is
couch.
Worse than Eleanor's mother.
Her
and actually,
awful
one of my
woman.
favorite parts in the books. One of my favorite quotes is it says something like, now that her mother was dead. No, the only person Eleanor hated the most, now that her mother was dead, was her sister.
Her sister's awful.
Yeah, she's horrible. And they, the beginning of the book, Eleanor and her sister, Eleanor wants to go to Hill House, and her sister says no. And her sister's like, you can't go. You can't go anywhere. You're not allowed to do that.
It's our car. You can't take it.
Yeah, they have.
Even though it's not being used.
Yeah, they have.
She has no reason to say no.
Yeah, no, she doesn't. She says, "What if the baby gets sick? What if this happens? We need to go on vacation." You're not like it's stuff like that.
We need you to be our workhorse. So that we can have a life.
Because she has nowhere.
She has nowhere else to go.
It sounds like anywhere else would be better.
It sounds that way, but she doesn't have a job. She doesn't have a job. She has no real marketable skills for a woman at that time.
Her age.
And that's her only family.
So why is she going to Hill House?
Because
they asked her
to get away.
Yeah, but why are they asking her if she has no skills?
Well, she has the psychic ability. The
paranormal,
the connection to paranormal. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no. So that's why they called her to Hill House. And she wants to go to Hill House to get away. Eleanor, actually, her age in this book is 34 years old. When I first saw the movie, actually, no, I didn't realize she was that old until I read the book. Because every characterization I've seen, and even in the beginning of the book, she seems like she's a fairly young woman. But she spent so many years taking care of her mother, living with her mother, not having a life.
Right.
Between her mother and her sister, her maturation would be pretty stunted.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has no social skills whatsoever.
She doesn't.
It's very Glass Menagerie.
Yeah. No,
Laura.
But she takes a chance and she sneaks out before her sister and her brother-in-law wake up the next morning, and she steals the car.
First crazy sort of impulsive thing this woman's ever done.
And
like, she's freaking out doing it.
And she goes and she does it, and she's excited, and she's on her way to Hill House, and there's a good, like, solid section where she's just saying, I'm free. Like, I'm free now, I'm free. I'm going somewhere, I'm going to have experiences that I've never had before.
The book details the journey and her thoughts of this amazing world that she's now able to see. She sees, like, a driveway with stone lions and a little cottage with a garden around it. Just the bucolic nature of America at that time on a highway. And
she imagines what her life would be if she got to live in that little cottage, or if she had the stone lions outside, and how she would take care of...
You can tell that she's lived in her imagination a majority of her life as an escapist tool, you know, from the reality that she's living. Yeah. So go on. Okay. Go on with...
But pretty much when she gets to Hill House, it was fascinating to me because when I started reading the book again, I had started where I had previously left off. So when I read it this morning, I'd forgotten how scared she was when she first showed up to Hill House. But when she arrives to Hill House, she is terrified. I'm not
beginning.
Sure. Actually,
I think the new life. She's not used to any of this.
This is what I think. Every time I've read that section now, because I read through it a couple times earlier, I think of that moment in Clue why is the car stopped?
Yeah, why is the car frightened?
It's frightened. It's exactly that same sort of.
It is kind of that thing. This house looms over her, and it's on a hill, of course.
Yeah, that's very different than what you said.
What's that?
Because you said she's afraid of new experiences versus you're making it sound like now she's afraid of the house.
Well, we have the surface and what's below the surface. It's an intimidating place, but in all honesty, this being out of her mother's world is what's really scary.
But I do imagine that the house is terrifying.
It's intimidating.
Well, when she eventually gets into the house, she realizes she's the first one to show up. She keeps going, I don't like it here, but she says she can't turn back because she's made it this far. She's cut ties with her sister pretty much.
Right.
The man at the gate taunted her and was like, you don't want to go in here. And she was I definitely want to go in here. And he's you don't.
I love this moment in the book because by the time she gets there, you want her to be free. You understand that she's had this stunted social life up until now. So you're really rooting for Eleanor. You like Eleanor very much. And she gets to the gate. And the caretaker, Mr. Dudley, is giving her trouble about letting her in. And you as the reader are going, let her in, you son of a bitch.
He's a douchebag.
Even though you know this is a terrifying house she's about to go to, you're like, let her in.
In the movie, do they follow her as the main character as well?
She actually has voiceover narration in the movie.
Yeah.
Both of them?
No, just Eleanor. Markway has.
No.
His name is Markway in the film. It's what is it in this one
again?
But
I meant both movies.
No, both movies. Only the 63 version.
No, only the 63 version has any narration. The other one, well, yeah,
the other one.
It is what it is, man.
I'm just really against the other one, and I will get to that
because it's a garbage crap story.
It's really
dropped
not
the ball
awesome.
in every way except for special effects.
Anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Eleanor arrives. She realizes she's alone. Mrs. Dudley, who is the caretaker's wife.
Very stern. I also love that they repeat, nobody else will do this job, so if you don't like the way
that's
I'm doing
what they
it,
do.
go fuck yourself. That's essentially what the Dudleys did.
Every time they show up, and Mrs. Dudley only ever says the same things, which is, I set dinner at 6 o'clock. I clear dinner at 7 o'clock. Right. I will leave at this time. I don't stay after dark. She's like, we live far away.
No one will be here to hear you scream.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Nobody will after dark.
It's kind of.
Does she actually say that?
Yeah.
No, she does.
Yeah, it's set up in this very spooky sort of gothic way.
But in space, nobody can hear you scream.
That's true. From what I've heard.
Did they steal that line from this book?
No, the alien stole that line from there.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
The alien stole that line from
there. No, they did not.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's actually hilarious the way Mrs. Dudley. When I was doing my research, she is noted as the comic relief.
I was gonna say
because she shows up and it's just ridiculous, and they do a great job. Yeah. Like Shirley Jackson does a great job in the book of creating Hill House to be so intimidating and so scary that it's laughable. And when the people, like when Theodora shows up, she's the second person to arrive. So Eleanor's the first. Theo shows up next. And Eleanor runs downstairs when she sees that somebody else is there. And she's like, thank God. I didn't think anybody else was coming. And Theo's like, well, I'm here now, so it's all right. But man, this house, right? And Mrs. Dudley is over in the corner, and she's like, I set dinner at 6. And Theo's like, man, this is crazy.
Herself.
But Eleanor and Theo have an entire conversation with Mrs. Dudley going, I set dinner at 6. I clear dinner at 7. And Theo's like, yeah, okay. And then she has a conversation with Eleanor, and Eleanor's like, come upstairs, your room can be next to mine. And
Eleanor is so hungry for friendship or some kind of companionship.
She is. And Theo is...
Who plays Mrs. Dudley in the movie?
I don't give a fuck.
Either one?
No, Bruce Dern plays Mr. Dudley in the remake. He's great.
But
he's awesome, and unfortunately the movie continues after that.
Actually, it was hilarious.
God, terrible. If they had stopped at Bruce Dern, if Eleanor had been like, if Lily Taylor had said, you're probably right, I'm going to turn around and go stay at a hotel.
It would have been a fine film.
Great movie. Unfortunately, they didn't go that route.
It was hilarious, though,
You're asking who played which character?
Ms. Dudley.
Marion Seldes?
There you go.
Bruce Dern and Mr. Dudley?
What about the first one?
Yeah.
In the original, 1963,
I have no idea.
who plays Dudley? Let's go on.
Again, I know Claire Bloom. That's who I know. And
Claire
I only
Bloom was
know
so
that
good as
because
Theo.
she was
really
in
good as well.
A Doll's House, which I had to watch in school.
Right.
But anyway.
Russ Tamblyn from West Side Story.
Rosalie Crutchley. Oh, Lois Maxwell was in the original.
And who's Lois Maxwell?
Grace Markaway?
No, I mean, who was she?
Oh, she was
her.
Moneypenny in Bond.
Her.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, she's such. Oh, we'll get to her character.
Her.
Oh, that lady.
See, now I watch it just to see my old Moneypenny there. I don't care about the house.
But pretty much once Theo shows up, and it's so light and funny. Like you have a tone of, I mean, Theo and Eleanor are like, oh, this house is the most horrible thing I've ever seen, and Eleanor's like, I know, it's awful, and
let's be together and traipse through the gardens, which they do.
They do, actually.
They do. They become really dear friends quite quickly.
Their response to the house being such a horrible place is, let's be together and traipse through the gardens.
That's all they can do. They're getting paid for it.
No,
they're getting paid for being there.
Theo is, she's a free spirit. She's quick and witty, and she's everything Eleanor is not.
She could have been in Rent. The character of Theo could have been in Rent. That's the kind of person she is. Yeah.
Yeah. She's just, when she shows up, she's outgoing. Eleanor is not. She's light and fun. Like even when horrible things happen, it often describes that Theo laughs. Like when something horrifying is happening, Theo's just chuckling and she's like, this is insane. Like, I can't believe this is happening to us right now. And Eleanor's like, why aren't you scared? And she's like, I'm so terrified right now. I'm just laughing.
That's how I respond if I get angry.
Well, that makes sense.
That happens often too. Theo, that's just her character. So when she shows up,
it's disbelief.
Eleanor is just so taken in by the fact that this woman has just shown up. And instead of having the reaction Eleanor did, which is, this place is terrifying, I'm going to leave, Theo is, this is the most terrifying place I've ever been in. Do you want to go hang out in the garden?
Right.
Like, And so that's it. And then they make fun of Mrs. Dudley while Mrs. Dudley's standing right there because Mrs. Dudley is like, no one can hear you.
She's just a robot.
She's like, in the dark where no one can hear you scream. And Theo's like, did you hear that, Eleanor? It's in the dark where nobody can hear you scream.
Now, is she, Miss Dudley, delivering this as comedy? Or has she been so broken by this place?
She's so
That's
broken
what it
by
is.
the
She
place.
doesn't want to deal with anybody. She doesn't want to talk to these people. So she probably writes down the same 6 words and just repeats them.
This is what it is.
Not to deal
this
with
is
them.
your schedule. This is how it goes.
Yeah.
And
To her, these people are a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't usually have to serve these people.
She's trying to warn them.
Yeah, no, she is.
Her and
She's
Mr.
saying,
Dudley both said, get out. You don't want to be here. This is the most terrifying place you've ever been.
Yeah. But no, and Eleanor and Theo form a quick friendship.
Yeah.
Actually, Eleanor notes that apparently Mrs. Dudley says something, and Theo looks at Mrs. Dudley in anger, and Eleanor thinks to herself, I hope Theo never looks at me that way. And then she goes...
Which she does end up doing later.
She does.
Yeah.
And Eleanor responds with, we've only known each other for so long, and yet I find myself hoping that Theo is never mad at me. I hope that my friendship with Theo remains. And they run out by the brook and
have a lovely picnic or talk about having a lovely picnic.
They talk about having a picnic
and see
by
a rabbit.
the brook.
There's a rabbit out there. There's wildlife that neither one of them
Both of them are wearing...
see very
I love
often.
this too. They make a point to say that Theo is wearing a bright yellow shirt, and when Theo walks in the room, Eleanor looks at her and she says the brightness, the color of your shirt is bringing more light into the room than the window, and Theo's like, I approve of your red sweater, will bring bright into the stuff like that. It's just nonsense like that. And
Here's the ballsy thing by Shirley Jackson, though, is there are definite lesbian overtones from Theo, and this is 1959 when you didn't write about such things. You didn't talk about these things. But it is overt in the book.
It really is.
They had to downplay it for the 1963 movie. They were commanded to tone down the lesbian overtones.
I don't know if they were commanded.
They were told. Well, they were told.
Were they?
Specifically, tone down Theo's character. She's too homosexual.
I had seen the movie, and then I had gotten a certain amount in the book while we were driving, and I looked up at it, and I said, is Theo gay?
Yeah,
and
she sure is.
Yep.
She absolutely is.
No, but they talk about her friend who she lives with.
Her friend that she lives with, they had a big fight. There are definite indications in the book that she's living that lifestyle that you didn't talk about.
And her and Eleanor's relationship is very close, and they get... Yeah, it's a lot. Anyway,
it never crosses into sexuality, but there's an Eleanor...
We gotta hurry up.
Curiosity about intimate relationships. So, she's never had one.
Luke and Montague show up. Luke and Theo kind of hit it off right away because...
Which makes Eleanor envious right off the bat.
Well, kind of. Yeah, it's wit. They just bounce off of each other so well because both of them are so quick. Again, what Eleanor isn't. And Dr. Montague shows up, and I just want to say this. Okay, so in the books, he is described as rosy and bearded and round.
So not Liam Neeson.
In the movies, in both of the movies, he's an attractive older man. Yeah. And I found that
there's this dashing gentleman.
Hilarious. And in the movies. So throughout...
Jim Broadbent.
Now that...
No.
Not Jim Broadbent. He's not... He's more working class.
Moulin Rouge. I think it's the guy who runs Moulin Rouge.
But pretty much throughout the entire...
That's Jim Broadbent.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah. No, that's not who I meant.
Huh?
Okay. Bigger, rosy cheeks.
I kind of imagined Slughorn.
This is Uncle Vernon. That's
I did not imagine that.
Or Orson Welles. That's perfect, yeah.
I know. Okay.
But the guy they had play him in the original, who's a great actor, by the way. The cast is great. It's a great film, but he's very...
that's him.
Okay, I guess.
Definitely.
He's very Cary Grant.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a very Cary Grantish kind of guy in the film.
Yeah.
So...
No, it should have been Orson Welles.
Now that everybody...
I love Orson Welles. I think that'd have been great.
Shut up. Now that everybody has been...
Everyone.
Now that everybody's pretty much been introduced, basically the rest of it is
shit happens.
Just crazy shit happens. Theo and Eleanor hear banging on the wall. Eleanor runs into Theo's room.
Right, happens a lot at night, of course.
Yeah, all of that.
When no one can hear you scream.
Where no one can hear you scream.
They can in Hill House if they're there.
Yeah.
No one outside of Hill House.
No one outside of Hill House.
Luke and Dr. Montague, run to the rooms often. They're like, we're here to save you, but, whatever.
But there's one where there's writing on the wall discovered. That is enormously important.
There's
the James Bond theme song.
Yeah.
Writing on the wall?
Yes.
Yeah.
Writing on the wall. No, there's 2 instances where something is written on the wall, and both times it's Eleanor come home.
Yeah.
So it's like her mom?
Well,
No.
it's
Her sister?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with them.
Yeah.
Get to the history of Hill House and it will make more sense.
Okay, really quick though. But so that's pretty much what happens throughout the rest. And Eleanor goes through there's kind of like I don't like calling it a love triangle because Luke and Theo.
That's what it is.
No, Luke and Theo don't really have feelings for one another. Eleanor thinks they do at one point, and she gets real pissed.
Well, you have to understand that she doesn't know friendship.
Yeah,
That's it.
no, that's
so
the
she
thing.
found someone, and she's afraid she's going to lose that person.
No, that's
Well, when
exactly
somebody
what
starts getting close with Montague, Eleanor's like, you son of a bitch.
No, that's not true. That's
She
what
gets
happens
jealous.
in the movie.
Okay. Well, the movie's valid.
In the book, this is my problem with the movie. I'll get to that. Okay, so in the book, Dr. Montague, he calls them children all the time. He sets their schedules. He tells them when and where they should be. He scolds them for running off. He, even at one point, he offers to read them a bedtime story. He is a father figure completely. Well, she has no feelings for him whatsoever in the book.
Are you sure?
I am 100% positive.
Even fatherly?
Nope, I am 1,000% positive. In the movie, however, they made him an attractive older man, and they got rid of the like little love triangle between Theo and Eleanor and Luke.
Really?
They got rid of it completely, and they made Eleanor fall in love with
Mark Way in the movie.
Mark Way in the movie, and
we haven't met him yet.
Well, it's Dr. Montague.
It's Dr.
They
Montague.
changed the name. Oh, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, they changed the name, but they changed
I missed that part.
But
They changed the name of the
I
character.
know I was supposed to look at something.
Yes.
I don't know the reason.
They changed the
I
name,
must have missed that too.
and they made him an attractive older man, which Eleanor falls in love with, and then later on, his wife shows up, which in the book, his wife is a horrible, horrible,
In the movie,
awful
she's a
bitch.
horrible, horrible person. She's awful.
I want to see Lois Maxwell play a horrible person because she's always so
Well,
sweet.
okay.
She's not, do you remember? Have you ever seen Beetlejuice?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the character of Otho? Catherine.
Okay, that's how she is in the
Catherine
book.
O'Hara's buddy that comes and he's like, "Oh, I can redecorate this place, no problem."
Not really. It's been a long time since
Yeah.
I've
Well,
seen
that's who Miss Montague brings with her. This snotty, pretentious douchebag.
In the
Does she say Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice?
yes,
3 times?
every time. But no,
Tim
when
Burton
Mrs.
stole this from The Haunting.
When Miss Markway in the movie shows up, the only thing she ever really does wrong is she's like, I don't believe in supernatural stuff. Ha 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 ha.
And I expect everything you've been doing is wrong and stupid.
She actually doesn't do that in the movie. You're getting the book and the movie confused. You frustrate me so much. Anyway.
That's the Wild Card Podcast.
Yes.
It's like two people trying to give the same report, but
it's not working. It's
I'm doing a report on the
mad.
film. She's doing a report on the book.
That's actually exactly what's happening. But no, and then Mrs. Markway gets taken by the house, and then Eleanor's like, they took her. They were
really
supposed to take me, and
how
then
does the house take her?
it's ridiculous.
She gets lost.
She gets lost in the house.
Roaming through the house.
She disappears.
There's a large section in the book describing the house, and apparently Montague in the book, he says that the way the house was structured, first off, it's just like round. Everything is round, and so the doorways all lead in through one another, but the angles that are created,
they're not square angles.
Yeah, you get easily lost.
So
in
doors
this house.
won't stay open. They'll close on their own, seemingly because of these angles in which the house was built.
So it's stuff like, you can't, like, if you do hear somebody screaming, it'll take you forever to find out where the noise is coming from.
It's such a massive house that you could easily get lost.
So now why would Eleanor want the house to take her? If it seems like she would want to stay with Theo, unless that love triangle is breaking.
Well, so about halfway through the book, which, by the way, in the book, Eleanor, she keeps repeating Journey's End and Lover's Meeting from 12th Night, and when she meets Luke, she repeats Journey's End and Lover's Meeting, and she tries so hard, and her and Luke even have, like, a conversation where they're laying on the grass outside, and halfway through that conversation, Eleanor goes, I'm really not into him at all.
Eleanor has no...
She tries so
love.
hard.
She's in love with the idea of finding love and this romanticism. it doesn't exist in her world.
Well, she tries really hard with Luke, and it just doesn't work, and she always ends up going back to Theo.
So do you think that's because of Luke, or do you think that's because she was incapable of finding it?
I think she's incapable of it.
I think it was because of Luke.
You think so?
Personally, I do, because I truly... And then right around the end of the thing, she, like, lies to Leo. Theo is like...
she lies at the beginning.
Yeah, no, she goes, this is where I live. And Eleanor's like, yeah, I have a cute little apartment, and it's adorable, and...
she's trying to be an adult.
Yeah, she's like, you should come visit it sometime, blah, blah, blah. And
she mentions stone lions. She mentions things that she saw along the way.
Yeah.
And she says, I have this cottage with the stone lions and the gardens, and total fabrication.
Which... Most of what Theo and Luke and Eleanor talk about, they are talking about it like it's not real.
Right.
Like, even when Theo's telling the truth about her stuff at home, she makes it sound, like, extravagant and stuff like that.
You can hear the ships in the harbor and
in the middle of the book, when Theo and Eleanor and Luke really, like, start meeting each other after, like, when they spend their days, there's a happiness right there in the middle of the book. And I was... like reading it, and I was like, horrible things are happening at night, but the next day everybody shows up and they're like, well, that was crazy, and then they like go run off and have fun. And
why don't they leave at the very beginning when crazy stuff starts happening?
Well, because they're there for crazy stuff to happen,
and Eleanor has nowhere to go.
And Eleanor has nowhere to go.
So they're aware that they're going to be seeing some crazy shit in this house. Some phenomena. That's what they're looking for. And they have to write reports every day on what they've seen the night.
Stuff like that.
You know.
But yeah, and so there's just this overwhelming happiness. And then when Eleanor Come Home is first written, Eleanor gets hysterical.
But they accuse her. Somebody accuses her of doing it herself. Theo does, I believe.
Theo looks at her, and she's like, or maybe you did it yourself.
Looking for attention.
And Eleanor, like, stops being hysterical and just gets really defensive and, like, but she stops being hysterical.
Yeah.
And Theo goes, she was like, I was just saying that so you would calm down.
Yeah.
And Eleanor starts to kind of hate her for it.
There's a lot of that in the book.
And then the resentment.
What she liked on the surface starts to curdle her a little bit.
Yeah, she starts thinking that, the narration is fascinating to me, because in the beginning of the book, it's fairly reliable. Like, you can tell what is Eleanor's imagination. You can tell what is real and what isn't. Mm-hmm. But about halfway through, Eleanor starts seeing things and hearing things that aren't there, and she starts saying... the way she starts describing Theo is no longer with the overwhelming amount of love she has in the beginning, and it ends up being, I hate her. She's not nice to me. They're always making fun of me. They're always talking about me behind my back. She gets very paranoid
later on.
Stuff like that happens.
Because she still feels like she doesn't fit. Yeah. She likes these people. She wants to fit in with these people. And she just doesn't. But
and then the second time Eleanor Come Home's written, it's in Theo's bedroom.
Yeah.
And there's blood everywhere, and Theo's, like, clothes have been ripped to shreds, and Theo's just hysterical and crying over her stuff, and Eleanor's actually the calm one. And Eleanor goes
almost coldly calm, though. I'm very uncomfortable during that scene, reading that scene.
It's kind of like you see the shift where she's kind of accepted that she's the one that's been chosen. And she's like, I'm going to take Theo to calm down. But the entire time she's doing it, she's talking about how annoying Theo is and how, like, awful and horrible
Eleanor takes
Theo
a bitter
is.
turn later on in the book.
And then when things start... like slowing down a little bit in desperation, Eleanor looks at Theo and she says, I know what I want to do after I leave Hill House. And Theo says, but Theo says, what is that? And Eleanor says, I'm going to go live with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to run away with you. I want to be with you. And Theo says, she says, I don't make a habit of taking in stray cats.
Ooh. Yeah.
That's fair.
And and
you feel so much around the last quarter of this book where you're just like, oh, it hurts. It hurts me to read these relationships.
In Theo's characterization, it's a lot of it shows a lot how scared she is of like family and ties. She's the only one. She's the only one that doesn't have a last name.
And she's the only one without a family or
anything to tie her down.
Any sort of normal bourgeois background.
Right. But Eleanor's a creep.
Eleanor is kind of a creep.
No, she is.
I'm going to go live with you.
Well, by that point, you're so caught up in the story that it doesn't seem as weird as it does just saying, I'm going to live with you.
And at the end, so after this happens, they pretty much
Theo
decide.
That's not clear.
Well,
I'm Team Luke.
At the end of the...
Cool hand Luke?
Cool hand, Luke.
Yeah.
I ate 50 eggs.
But at the very end of the book, they're sending Eleanor away because she has voiced the fact that she wants to stay at Hill House forever now.
They're really concerned about her psyche.
And they're like...
She's lost it.
They're like,
her psyche was broken before she ever got to the house.
No, it was. And so...
The house did not help it along at all.
But there's one night where she finds herself no longer scared, and instead she runs out of her room and starts banging on the doors, and there's this rickety stairwell.
The spiral staircase in the garden.
Which, it is said that out of the 5 people who have died in Hill House, one of them was a young woman who hung herself
from the top of those stairs.
From the top of the stairwell. And Eleanor runs all the way up to the stairwell, and they run after her, and Theo has to talk her down while Luke
very creaky,
goes up there and
way
gets
up
her.
There. It's scary. It's a scary moment.
Yeah, it's just an awful moment, and it's very tense, and you kind of realize she's lost it.
Yeah.
And then the next day, Montague comes in and he says, Eleanor, it's time for you to go
you
home.
Can't stay here
and she says, I don't have a home.
Yeah, she comes honest
with
everybody afterwards.
Hill House.
I have nowhere to go.
Yeah, she's like, Hill House is my home. And they're like, you have to get out of here.
I have nobody. I have no home. I have nowhere.
They say, we talked with your sister. She doesn't care whether or not you come home as long as you bring the car with you.
Yeah, God.
Sweet. That's a good
God, that's awful.
No, and so pretty much they like get her into the car, and one of my actually favorite moment of the book is at the very end. She said goodbye to everybody except for Theo.
Yeah.
And she pauses by the door and she says, Theo. And Theo runs to her and says, I thought you weren't going to say goodbye. And then she says, oh, Nellie, my Nell. And then she says, please don't forget me. Because Montague is like, forget everything you've ever done.
Yeah.
Hill House doesn't exist. And Theo goes, please don't forget me. One day we'll meet again and we'll talk about all of the wonderful things that happen, all the wonderful and frightening things that happen here at Hill House, and we'll have our picnic down by the brook. And then she looks at the doctor and she says, we never had our picnic down by the brook.
Yeah.
And the doctor like shakes his head.
There's a lot of regret with that.
And then Eleanor runs her car into a tree.
Theo's not much of a psychic, is she?
So
no.
So the rest of them are staying at the house. They're just sending her away because she's
it's become unsafe, and so they're going to continue the studies, and they think that they're sending her off, and then she crashes into the tree. Now, here's the cool thing, though, in the backstory of Hill House.
But then nothing. We have no story about the rest of them after.
Well, no. It says that.
Sure you do, but
no. It says that Dr. Montague and his wife, who shows up, like I said, in the book, she shows up and she's like, "I'm much better at supernatural stuff than you guys.
Did you talk with them with the Ouija? Have you done automatic writing yet?
Like, have you done all of this stuff?
It's all that scammy stuff that you hear all these people doing, but she's bought into it and she thinks she knows better than the academics about this stuff. She's like, try the Ouija board.
Like, that's exactly what happened. And so she's
they're doing a scientific study and documents, and she's like,
she's not
automatic writing. That's the way to go.
Really, in the book. She's more important in the movie. Mm-hmm. But that's what she is.
As a foil to Eleanor.
She's an obstruction. With both pieces, she's an obstruction to Eleanor is wanting to stay and all that. And, and she brings it home. By the time she's introduced, Act 3 is beginning. So it's about to come to a close.
And they don't really actually ever see anything.
No. Yeah.
Like, by the end of it, the house has already consumed Eleanor, and they're like, oh, well, we don't need you to see anything.
I don't think Montague and Luke see anything that could not otherwise be explained
by Theo and
if Eleanor
really
wrote her own name on the wall, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It could be described that way. The thing is, it's always, the films are marketed as a haunted house movie, and the book is known as one of the greatest haunted house books to ever be written, but it's not about a haunted house. It's about Eleanor. Mm-hmm. The entire book is about Eleanor. The haunted house is inconsequential for the most part. You could fit that character into almost any setting with the same dynamic and the same characters. And it would still be the same sort of conclusion.
Because as the relationships fracture, so does her psyche.
That's exactly it,
No, that's exactly what happens.
So the whole thing is about Eleanor. The haunted house doesn't matter.
So they could be stuck in an elevator and
the same thing would happen. Yeah.
No, I think I read one theory that said everything that happened was Eleanor's telekinesis powers.
That the house brought that out in her without her knowing.
And she was unaware of it, and so everybody thought that it was a ghost, but it was just Eleanor. I don't think that's the truth, because there are several incidents, I
think it's a good theory. I don't agree with it, but I think it's a really solid theory.
I feel like the writing in blood... By the way...
Hypothesis. I'm sorry, Gerard.
Sorry, I was distracted.
But, no, by the way...
You were just bored.
No, I was trying to think of, I think the story would have been better without supernatural elements.
Maybe.
But
I think in 59 that was a good vehicle for it.
I understand. And I think for the other three in the house, there has to be something compelling to keep them there. But in terms of Eleanor's story, this idea of her being psychic, I find it... I don't know. I like the idea that she's just broken.
Well, it's not overt that she's psychic. That's just the vehicle that brings her
there. It's really not. That was just an idea that somebody had. But actually, the second instance, after the writing in blood and stuff in Theo's room, after that relationship fractures, Theo is moved into Eleanor's room, and she is given Eleanor's clothes, and she is... they end up... Because Theo doesn't have anything left.
It's all torn and destroyed.
So Eleanor's like, here, take my stuff. And they actually mention the fact that Theo put on... Luke says, you'll look ravishing in Eleanor's red sweater. And and Theo puts on Eleanor's red sweater. And Eleanor kind of hates her even more for that.
Yeah.
That she now has to, share her possessions. But at the very end, the next morning after all of this stuff happens, they close Theo's room up, and they don't go back in it. And at the very end, Theo says, Mrs. Montague went into my room and there was nothing wrong with it. All my clothes are fine.
Yeah. Go through the backstory of Hill House, because there are definite, very interesting parallels between the backstory.
It's almost time, though.
Yeah, and then, we've got about 10 minutes left, or 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So, pretty much the Hill House was built by a man named Hugh Crane for his wife and his 2 daughters. Before his wife could get to the house that he had just built for her, on the way there, her carriage hit something and she went into a tree in the driveway.
Oh, right. There we go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds like an echo.
That's exactly it.
And then he had a second wife who died in the house from falling, maybe?
Falling down the stairs.
Yeah, they said that she
might
have
fallen
down.
His wives keep dying.
Yeah. And then his third
his
wife...
daughters also make an appearance here.
His third wife dies of tuberculosis.
Right.
And
not at the house, I don't think.
No, it is at the house.
Is it in the house?
She dies of tuberculosis at the house, and then the 2...
So she's coughing up blood.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
just like Eleanor.
Yeah. And then the 2 daughters, as they grow older, Hugh Crane finally decides, I want to go move to Europe and not be in this house anymore.
Right.
And so he ships his daughters off with a cousin of their mother's, and then he goes to Europe, where he dies in Europe. Well, when the 2 girls reach of age, the older sister and the younger sister gets married, and the older sister, just she just doesn't want to, but the older sister, they fight over the house. It was left
just like Eleanor
in the car,
fighting over the inheritance.
Younger sister.
Yeah.
Yes, they fight over the house. Well, the older sister and the younger sister make an agreement that the younger sister can have family heirlooms, and the older sister will have the house. Well, the older sister goes out to the village and gets a young woman as a companion to help her, and the older sister eventually dies. Well, when she dies, she leaves the house to the companion.
Right.
And the younger sister gets pissed. And
she's accused of sneaking in there and stealing.
Yeah,
some of
the
heirlooms
companion
that were left in the house.
starts hearing people break in the middle of the night. There was a police report that the younger sister attacked the companion with a broom at one point, which is hilarious.
We get to the part where the caretaker is.
Well, no, that's what I was saying.
She does. I found this fascinating as well.
Well, the younger sister accuses the companion of killing the older sister by neglect.
Because the older sister was banging on the wall wanting help.
Yeah.
And the companion never came. Just like Eleanor
in the
movies,
movies.
So many parallels between the backstory and the story we end up reading. In the movie,
it says that the companion was like fooling around with a farmhand and she never went upstairs. And
what are you gonna do if a farmhand shows up?
You're gonna fool around.
But
gives you a sack of potatoes.
You gotta have to.
But in the book,
that's the unwritten law. Swimming in the old houses.
But in the book,
the fjord.
That's just rumor. Like that's what the townspeople, like the people that are in the village beside Hill House, they think that the companion's like untrustworthy and stuff like that. And eventually,
30 years later, you have gold records.
Everybody just
everybody
hates the companion so much that she kills herself. She doesn't even have time.
Hangs herself.
Yeah, she doesn't even have time to like enjoy her house because it happens like 2 months after. Because she gets like letters. She gets attacked when she goes out in town. Not just by the sister, but like by the townspeople. There's rumors about her being evil and distrustful. And it's just, so eventually she just hangs herself. So that was the 5th death in Hill House.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, Eleanor kind of,
They say deaths in haunted houses come in 5s.
Is that what they say?
Do they really?
You don't know. Really, we can't recommend this book enough. It's a beautiful piece of literature that transcends the horror genre, really.
I see that Kenzie got through 2 pages of her 6.
Already,
actually,
she knew a lot of it.
I was gonna say,
I
was gonna say.
What is this drawing of the woman with the eye patch about?
Okay, listen. When you screw up an eye, you just put an eye patch on them, and it fixes everything.
I like it.
As an artist.
Just to be clear,
art
Kenzie
works.
has a drawing on her report.
Of a woman with an eye
have
patch.
no idea what Jeff just talked about.
Of Eleanor with an eye patch.
Eleanor with an eye patch.
And a spooky tree.
No,
on the top of it. We really touched on almost everything that was in there.
Everything that was in there.
She's recently read the book. I've read the book. I've seen the movies a couple of times a piece, at least. And I've seen the remake 5 or 6 times despite being awful.
You hate the remake and you've seen it 5 or 6 times.
It's one of those.
It's so bad that you've only watched it 5 or 6 times.
Here's the thing. I didn't watch it, but I would pop it on just for noise when you're like playing video games or something. I used to. I don't own the VHS
this movie
anymore.
that you hate.
Well, no, I used to. I absolutely used to.
I used to love that movie.
Yeah, the kids thought it was great.
It's no 13 Ghosts.
It was.
I love 13 Ghosts. And that's so much fun. I love House on Haunted Hill, the remake. I thought that was so much fun.
Well, listen, in the remake.
Yeah. Oh, I love
in the remake.
Famke Janssen.
Anyway, in the remake of the film.
Way to tip your hand, Nene.
Well, okay, I've been talking about this like maybe lesbian relationship the entire time, and that's obviously my favorite part of this book.
You told everyone that your daughter was a lesbian the very first episode of this podcast.
Yeah, but not everybody listens. Like people don't listen to every one of them. So
actually,
if you didn't know,
as a reminder, my daughter's a lesbian.
I've been asked before what episode someone should listen to, and I always say the first one.
Well, that's where they should start because we build upon so many. There's so many running gags for
Jack rolling.
We haven't mentioned werewolves in a while.
We really haven't. There's no werewolves in the haunting.
I beat the werewolves, and
when I asked Dad, if Theo was gay, I was like, oh no, am I like being biased and totally reading into this because I find Theo kind of hot, which is true.
It is
and
true.
I was like, I don't know.
It's
so I asked Dad.
It's absolutely the yellow shirt.
It was Catherine Zeta-Jones.
From leather outfit.
99.
Does Catherine Zeta-Jones wear a yellow shirt in the movie?
No, she wears a lot of leather.
A lot of leather.
So they don't have that line in the movie?
No, they don't.
Sucks.
In the remake,
that's the best line you've said today.
And the original was black and white, so they don't.
Yeah.
We're like, what the fuck is yellow? This is black and white.
In the remake, people die.
All the time anyway.
Absolutely.
In the remake, Luke dies. Like
the house gets
it. In the remake, it bites his head off. The enormous flu that's shaped like a lion comes out of the darkness and knocks his head off.
It's dumb.
Clean off. And then Lightning McQueen is out of the race.
I hate it when that happens.
and then in the remake, like she apparently Hugh I don't know, like the children of Ukraine.
Oh God!
Like called to
the
her,
slave children that he bought into slavery and murdered in the mansion. Awful.
Probably wasn't the Northeast then, and that.
No, probably not.
Weird.
It seems more south, doesn't it?
Back in North Carolina.
But then Lily Taylor actually has the line, "You can't hurt us anymore, Grandpa," and I go, "Oh fuck, come on!
No,
this is the worst script ever."
It's only worth watching 5 or 6 times.
It's like in the background.
I can say as a standalone
he actually has it on his phone watching running right now.
As a standalone movie, it's not my least favorite movie ever.
What is your least favorite movie?
God.
That's a good least favorite question.
I don't watch bad movies.
However, yes, you do.
I almost never turn movies off.
Speaking of which, we watched Company of Wolves last night. Okay. Neil Jordan.
That was such a weird movie.
It's very bizarre, but it's so stylistic.
It was the weirdest movie
and it's beautifully shot.
Ever
Anton
seen
Furst,
in my
who
life.
was the production designer for Tim Burton's Batman, did the production design for this, and it's very fairy tale.
You want to
get nuts?
In the woods. We'll get nuts. Let's get nuts.
I think it's about time.
I agree. I think we'll bring this
Company
to a close.
Of Wolves, great movie.
We'll bring this to a close. We would love to hear your thoughts, Deckheads, on Haunted House Stories, Hill House. Are you Team Eleanor?
Or Team Theo?
Okay, listen. Eleanor's not...
Which movie do you hate the most?
Yeah, what is your least favorite movie?
You don't have to pick teams. They love each other equally.
Nobody has ever seen
Ron
the remake or the original. I'm Team Jacob.
Team Jacob.
And on that note, until next time.
Stay wild.
Stay wild.
And bite the edge.